Have you ever noticed that your brain expects smoking at certain times, like after meals, during breaks, when you're stressed? It feels automatic. But what if you could actually use that expectation to quit smoking for good? Today, I'm going to talk about how expectation leads to the smoking habit, and more importantly, how we can actually start to flip that expectation to work for us as opposed to against us. So, I want to demonstrate to you the power of expectation. So, wherever you are, if it's you're in a safe environment to do this exercise, I want you to just close your eyes and imagine, even if you've already eaten recently, I want you to imagine your favorite food. Just imagine on a plate in your mind. Imagine the color, the you can look at it, the smell, of course. Imagine, if it's hot or cold or refreshing, savory, sweet, doesn't matter. Just imagine in your mind that food on that plate. And I want you to take a spoon or a fork or whatever it is. I want you to now take a bite of that food. Now imagine the texture in your mouth. Imagine the flavor, or if it's something else, just imagine consuming that food and really imagine all the details. Now, you can open your eyes and I want you to just notice that experience, right? What happened when you started to imagine eating your favorite food in vivid detail? Obviously, you weren't eating the food at the time. However, many people would notice they're, starting to salivate, starting to notice the flavor come to mind and really start to notice a strong physical response just by imagining eating the food. Now, smoking works the same way, right? So we can start to, in our minds, form an expectation that after a certain time, like after a meal or during a break, that there is, we start to expect we start to expect a cigarette. And what ends up happening is that craving for that cigarette starts to form and we start to respond in a very physical manner. Even if we're not addicted to nicotine as much as we might think, it starts to form a very physical response when we start to crave the cigarette. So certain times of day will come and immediately, automatically, that physical craving will for a cigarette will start to form. And this is because there's a pattern that's been formed, that's been set, an expectation that there's going to be a cigarette at a certain time of day after a certain event or during a certain event. This is a very important concept, right? Because this is far more powerful of a force than the actual physical nicotine addiction. Now, when we fully understand the importance of expectation in smoking and in all addictions, really, we can start to reverse the pattern, right? The way we do this is by interrupting the pattern, the expectation. So, this is going to take a little bit of effort at first. However, it's very much worth the effort. And it's how many people can quit smoking often without any help is because they start to break the expectation. The way this works is by simply inserting a new behavior during those specific times. For example, if you are very used to smoking during times of stress, right? You can start to interrupt that pattern by using breathing techniques like the 7-Eleven breathing technique, where you breathe out longer than you breathe in, right? It's a very relaxing breathing technique. It's a very powerful technique. And so you can start to interrupt that pattern, right? So you notice yourself feeling stressed. There's the expectation to step outside and smoke. And during that craving to step outside, you use the 7-Eleven breathing technique. At first it's going to feel weird. All right. It's not going to come easy initially. However, with repetition, you're starting to set a new expectation, right? It could be something else where during your break, you step outside to a specific area to smoke a cigarette. Instead, you can go out another way and take a walk, right? When especially this works when it's not wintertime. However, you can do something along those lines. You can start to take a walk and you start to set a new pattern where when a break starts, the new pattern, which initially be weak again, however, with repetition will start to override the old pattern of smoking. And because this is going to be it's going to be a new way of doing things initially, I want you just to pick a few of the most quote unquote important cigarettes that you smoke and do this for those cigarettes first, right? So it can be maybe you really enjoy the cigarette that you smoke with your first coffee, for example. What I want you to do is I want you to figure out something else to do so you can start to implement a new expectation with that cigarette first because it's such a quote unquote important cigarette in your schedule. You can start to set new expectations in those cigarettes first, not all 30 or all 40, right? That's too daunting of a task initially. So go ahead and start trying this today. I want you to pick one or two quote unquote important, not really, cigarettes in your schedule, and I want you to start setting new expectations there. And if this resonates with you, I want to hear your feedback and how this goes for you. And leave a comment below and follow me for more practical, actionable tips to quit smoking for good.